The women behind NASA's human-computer program not only aided with the calculations needed to put a man in space, but also overcame extreme conflicts to do so, such as racial inequality, gender inequality, and prejudice, in the midst of America's most turbulent times. Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, and Mary Jackson. These three women lived and worked in America's most turbulent times. World War I, World War II, the Great Depression, flight, John F. Kennedy, Jim Crow laws, civil rights, women's rights, the Cold War, the space race, and a man on the moon. These powerful women experienced and participated in these historical events. The Hidden Figures women worked at Langley Memorial Aeronautical Laboratory, where the demand for airplanes was at an all-time high because of World War II. There was a massive need for computing power to do the math required to assess if the plane was safe or not. The complicated math was done by hand by hundreds of women working as human computers at Langley. Female computers, although possessing the same degrees as their male colleagues, were often paid half as much and did so in half the time. These women, mostly African Americans seeking a better life and job for themselves, much like the Hidden Figures women, were hired because they had college degrees and math and teaching experience. Johnson, Vaughan, and Jackson got their jobs as computers, but their years at Langley began a little differently. Dorothy Vaughan, born September 20th, 1910, in Kansas City, Missouri. Dorothy and her family moved to Morgantown, West Virginia, where she graduated high school in 1925, and 4 years later graduated college with a Bachelor's of Science in Mathematics. Because of Teddy Roosevelt's Executive Order 8802, which banned discrimination based on race, religion, or ethnicity in the employment of workers, she took a job at Langley in 1943. Even though the executive order was in place, Vaughan was assigned to work at Langley's segregated West Area Computing, where she was among the first group of black women to be employed as mathematicians. In 1949, she became NACA's first black supervisor, where she frequently collaborated with her white supervisors and led the group of female computers. She often put herself in danger by speaking up for her fellow female employees who deserved a promotion or a raise. In 1958, when NACA changed to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, she was working hard and became an expert in Fortran programming and coding. She took part in the Scout Launch Vehicle program that shot America's first satellites into space. She also worked closely with her friends Katherine Johnson and Mary Jackson on the John Glenn launch. In 1971, after all her hard work, she retired, and later in 2008, Vaughan passed away. Mary Jackson was born April 9, 1921, in Hampton, Virginia. She loved science from an early age and dedicated her life to improving the lives of other people around her. She graduated in 1937 from George P. Phoenix Training School with high honors and later earned her Bachelor's of Science in Mathematics and Physical Science from Hampton Institute. After many career changes, she arrived at Langley in 1951 and worked under Dorothy Vaughan as one of the computers in the segregated West Computing area. She was offered a position as an aeronautical engineer under Kazimierz Zanecki in the supersonic pressure tunnel, testing rockets for space travel. Zanecki saw her potential and he trained her to become an engineer. In 1958, when NACA changed to NASA, Jackson became NASA's first black female engineer. That same year, she co-authored her first report. In 1978, she switched positions to be NASA's Human Resources Administrator to help women like her advance their careers until her retirement in 1985. Jackson helped her community and was honored by numerous organizations for her service. In 2018, it was announced that Jackson Elementary in Salt Lake City would be renamed in her honor. Katherine Johnson was born August 26, 1918, in White Sulphur Springs, West Carolina. As a young child, her mind revolved around counting. Anything mathematical came easily to her. Her intense curiosity and brilliance skipped her ahead in school, and she finished 8th grade by age 10. She was hand-chosen along with 2 other African Americans to integrate West Virginia University. While attending college, her mentor, Dr. William W. Claytor, the 3rd African American to earn a PhD in mathematics, trained her to become a research mathematician. At 18, she graduated summa cum laude with a Bachelor of Science degree in math and French. Because of her degrees, she was able to become a math teacher, the highest level of jobs for an African American at that time. In 1952, Dorothy Vaughan told her that NACA was hiring African American women to work as human computers. She was later hired as a computer in 1953, where she quickly astonished her superiors, not only with her skillful calculations, but also with her curiosity and assertiveness. After only 2 weeks at NACA, she had talked her way into a promotion and special responsibilities. However, every day she had to work with prejudiced and racist people. Every day she had to walk a half a mile across campus to use the segregated black bathroom in the West Computing Wing. Johnson hardly allowed this to stop her, though. The 1957 launch of the Russian satellite Sputnik hurled America into the space race. Because of Johnson's skill with math, plotting the course for Alan Shepard's 1961 flight rested on her. Johnson said, "The early trajectory was a parabola, and it was easy to predict where it would be at any point. You tell me when you want it and where you want it to land, and I'll do it backwards and tell you when to take off." Her work on Project Mercury earned her the opportunity to work on John Glenn's orbital mission. However, the math needed for the orbital mission was not yet known. The previous flights were just launches involving parabolic equations and suborbital spaceflight. Many mathematicians, including Johnson, had to essentially invent orbital mechanics to launch Glenn into a successful orbit. A worldwide network of computers with linking stations and IBM computers at multiple locations were brought in to do the orbital equations. However, John Glenn didn't trust the computers and said, "Get the girl. If she says they're good, then I'm ready to go." Johnson's equation matched the computers exactly, and the mission was a success. Johnson retired in 1986 after 33 years at Langley. She authored and co-authored over 26 research reports, and in 2015, at the age of 97, Barack Obama awarded her the highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. These 3 incredible women experienced many conflicts in their lives. They lived during a time in which women and African Americans were just beginning to earn basic rights. They witnessed the legal segregation of blacks and whites, African Americans protesting and being beaten in the streets. They also not only experienced firsthand the prejudice and racism, but spoke up and fought back against it. When the doors closed for the Hidden Figures women, or their opportunities stopped, they simply helped others gain the rights they deserved. Unwilling to compromise in their beliefs, they dedicated their lives to better not only their situation, but the lives of the people around them. Their hard work and dedication in their positions paved the way for gender and racial equality in the workplace. These women had ambition, raw talent, and confidence. These women made history by refusing to allow anything to dictate their position in life. These women are no longer hidden figures. Their legacy will continue to shine for all of history to see.
And I turned them into lessons, and what seemed to be less, I turned them into blessings. See, I'm not trying